So often the safety container is really created by the words that you use and the thoughts that you're thinking and the feelings that you're having about an issue. So often, sometimes I see that if you're a person who tends to avoid things and you're like, it'll just work its way out and I'm just going to avoid it. Well, guess what? It's just going to keep coming back with a vengeance, which actually then just increases your anxiety. Hey everybody! Today we're going to go through the 5 ways to reduce your anxiety around money. There's many areas of life that actually can create anxiety around money. It could be the fact that you grew up in a household that actually your parents fought about money all the time, or you grew up in a household where there wasn't enough money all the time. And then you decide perhaps maybe you're sharing your life with somebody else right now and you both do money extremely differently. Or it could even be your boss at work and you're in charge of the budget for your division and your boss doesn't look at money the same way you do because you both grew up in 2 different households and 2 different communities. As well as if you're married, same thing happens there. So all these instances and different life stages and life events through the years actually creates a lot of anxiety around money. Often I hear that is like the crux of a person's lack of happiness in their life. And so over the last 25 plus years of being a financial planner, I've come to learn that we can easily reduce our anxieties if we do these 5 things. So let's get going. All right, number 1 is to create a safe container for your life to expand to a life that you love. So how do you create a safe financial container? Well, when we start to recognize the fact that if you're interfacing with anyone else about money, whether it's coworkers or in a relationship, or even as you age, I often find that single people have a really big challenging time when it comes to the money with issues as their parents age with other siblings. So there's many different ways that we interface on our financial front, whether you're single, married, or divorced, or in between. And so it's super important that during this process, what you do is start to understand that you come to the table with a whole set of belief systems and patterns around money, and as does the other person that you're interfacing with. And if we're in a situation where you're trying to get somebody to look at it your way and vice versa, and you're like oil and water and it just doesn't combine, that doesn't create safety. So often the safety container is really created by the words that you use and the thoughts that you're thinking and the feelings that you're having about an issue. So often, sometimes I see that if you're a person who tends to avoid things and you're like, it'll just work its way out and I'm just going to avoid it. Well, guess what? It's just going to keep coming back with a vengeance, which actually then just increases your anxiety. So perhaps if you're having those kind of feelings before you're going into a situation to talk about money, you can start it with something like this and just say, I know this is not going to come out perfect in my words, but I'm going to do my best here. So that way you kind of take the anxiety off the table and then communicate what it is that you want to communicate. I found that when we do that, it kind of unplugs all the stress. It unplugs all the uncomfortableness that has been thought up to this point in time for that conversation. That's a way that you can create a safe financial container. Because if we don't have that place of safety, what happens is you are never going to really embody a life that you love, because you're going to either work things out or you're going to act it out through your money, through your relationships, or through your health. And we don't want it to act out in any of those areas. So let's just deal with it head on and start to learn, what are your triggers? Because a trigger, an emotional trigger, and I talk about this in my 2 books, The Emotion Behind Money and Awaken Your Wealth, that the triggers, and I know this is going to be hard for some of you to stomach, a trigger, when you're triggered, often we think it's about the other person, like, why did they do this to me? Why did they say this to me? But guess what? If you're the actual one that is triggered, something needs to shift in you. So to create that safe container, the second thing you can do under that safe container is you can actually ask yourself, why am I triggered? Why am I triggered? And the answer, your ego may not want the answer to actually come up and out, and your mind's going to come up with all these reasons why it's the other person's issue and not yours. But I am telling you, if you can sit there and ask yourself that question and come to the table to create a safe container by understanding what is yours and what is theirs, and understanding your own triggers actually is a really big piece of the equation. Because if we're really honest with ourselves, we know something needs to shift inside, because this person that you're having this interface with actually does not actually stop. And what I mean by that is that you'll have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a boss, a family member, like that same person with a different face and a different name is going to continue to keep coming in your life, showing you your trigger, and at some juncture, you're going to have to address it. It's no different than when people get divorced. You know, if you divorce one person, if you don't shift and change something going on in your inside and understanding your triggers, then guess what? You're highly statistically likely to get divorced a second time, and even more so a third time, until you address those internal triggers. All right, so number one is about creating that safe container, because safety creates a state of neutrality that creates the platform for expansion. And then what happens, which most people don't realize on a money front, when you do that, more money actually then comes to you. You'll get that raise, you'll get the bonus, you'll get a better job offer. It shows up in the craziest ways. All right, you ready for number two? Number two, the second way to actually reduce your anxieties around money is know that you can only control yourself. I know, sometimes we just want to like arm wrestle and get somebody and put them in alignment. But we have to understand that we naturally, as human beings, have 5 stress response systems. And one of those stress response systems is actually the fact that you try to entrain and control other people. Why? Why do we, and you know, you ladies out there, because if we're really honest with ourselves, we know how when we're trying to control the man, and you know how the man doesn't like to be controlled by the woman. Why do us ladies do that? And you know what? We're not the only ones. The men try to do it too. But we do that because it actually is a normal human stress response, that it reduces our anxiety if we control and train other people around us. And that makes us feel more safe. But that doesn't come with expansion energy. So think of it this way. We are all energy. Einstein proved that. E equals mc squared, right? All right. So when we understand that we are energy, then what is the energy that you're putting out there? So if you're putting out there to reduce your own stress, to control other people, does that feel expansive, or does that feel like you're contracting? So what I want you to do is I want you to take this stuff from your head and I need you to drop it into your heart. And what I mean by that is, when we let go of the monkey mind and we say, and trust me, your mind is going to tell you all the good reasons why you should control this situation. But that's not going to long-term sustainably reduce your anxiety around money, because that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get you out of your limiting belief patterns so that you can actually expand and reduce your anxieties around money permanently, so that you can feel grounded. That's the goal. All right. Are you ready for number 3? Number 3, third way to actually reduce your anxiety around money. And this goes back to almost the one that I talked about in the prior one. But it's about not asking, why are you trying to control everything? I want you to ask, why is it that you have the financial products that you have? It's super interesting to me that I actually talk to people and I say, why is it that you bought this life insurance policy? Why do you have this brokerage account, and why did you choose the investments inside of it that you have? And those 2 examples are the best examples I can give, because when it comes to life insurance, or any kind of insurance for that matter, what I hear over and over again is, well, I don't know, that's just what the insurance person sold me. Well, if you don't understand your why, and I talk about in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, what I call the wise decision-making process, and I'll include below the link to get a copy of that book for free. You just have to pay for your own shipping if you want to go deeper on this. But if you don't make a wise decision in terms of asking yourself, the first part of that is ask for your why. Because it's about the fact that if you don't understand how you came up with the answers you came up with, it's not going to reduce your anxiety long run, because it's not your answer. It's an insurance representative or agent's answer. It's not you. It's not authentically you. It's just because that's what the dude sold me, or that's what the chick sold me, right? So number 4 is you need to take your right and your left brain along for the ride when it comes to financial decisions. And you're like, Joel, what are you talking about? You know what? We've become, as a whole in society, we've become way more educated since the 1980s as a middle class and the majority of people, because that's when 401ks and 403bs came around. And it allowed us to invest in the stock market at our employer. So it's an easy way for the masses of people to actually get into straight stocks. It was usually 20 years prior to that. Only the wealthy people did that, because the majority of Americans had pension plans before that. So what is the deal with taking your right and left brain at the same time with your decisions? So we've made these decisions, and they have these cute little questionnaires in all your 401ks, your retirement plans at work, and you can fill out the questionnaires now, and it says, here you go. This is what you should, this is how your asset allocation should be. So they have automated some of that process. Here's the challenge. My industry has completely ignored you. Do you hear me? You're like, but Julie, I'm the one that actually filled out the form. Yes, you did fill out the form, but the challenge here is the fact that you filled out the form based on your left brain logical. And trust me, I'm a financial planner. I have a very strong left brain logical. And about 15 years ago, when I realized, holy crap, we're ignoring our right brain, which is the emotional side. And guess what? Human beings are emotional. So guess what? You have to take both parts with you. This is why we have compliance problems in the industry. And this is also why people have problems with financial professionals, because like, well, they put me in this stuff and blah, 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 blah. Well, it's because of the fact that you didn't satisfy the whole part of you. And your brain, your whole brain has to go into the process. You know, so we at JMC Wealth Management, we actually do it both ways. We actually measure your right brain and your left brain, because we got to take the whole part of you with. And what I often find when I ask these questions and we do the questionnaires, and I'll include the link below if you want to actually measure your right brain as well, because all the other traditional questionnaires are for the left brain. I'll put those links below so that you can give it a test ride. And if you have a disconnect, you by all means can send an if you want to do a consultation with someone on my team, you can do that at info@jmcwealth.com, and just click the link below to JMC, and then we can have you work with somebody to kind of balance this stuff out for you. But I'm telling you that it's really important to measure your right and left brain, because often they're two completely different answers. Your right brain will be ultra conservative, and your left brain, because you understand your age and your education and all that other stuff, will be growth or aggressive growth. And this is why you have a disconnect. This is why you have anxiety around money. Let's get that fixed, all right? It's time for you to love yourself enough to get that fixed. So let's go through number 5. Number 5 reason or way to reduce your anxiety around your money is, are you ready for this one? You have to stand in your truth. Okay, what do I mean by that? And Julie, what the heck does that even mean around money? Well, it has everything to do with your money. So remember on number 4, we talked about our right and our left brains. Yep, we got to take them both with us. Guess what? You have to take your truth with you, and that is your heart. As one of my mentors says to me all the time, you have to start with your heart and then add your smarts. But we have made these financial decisions all from a place of a left brain logical, and that we're blocking and tackling. We're doing the best for our families. We're doing the best for our employers. We're doing the best to participate in society. The problem is you have not taken every component of you, and you've allowed your mind and your ego to drive the engine, and the heart has been left on the sidelines. So stand in your truth means that if something is of a disconnect, You now understand your why more. You now understand what your right and left brain are saying. And you're deciding that you're not going to try to control other people because you're just going to sit in your shit and fix your own stuff. Like, that's what it means. This is about building your wealth from the inside out. That's why that's the subtitle of my book, From the Emotion Behind Money. It's how to build your life from the inside out. How to build your financials from the inside out. And that means standing in your truth and saying, it's okay that the majority of the world has 401k plans and 403bs, and that's the money that they're going to retire on. But if your truth is the fact that you can't stand the stock market, how do you still retire at the age that you want to retire at? Well, come with out-of-the-box solutions. Why is that not a problem? I have a client that she's building a real estate portfolio, and she's making sure that each one of those investments or mortgages are completely done by age 65. So she now has a pension-like income coming from these properties that are all in one high-rise here in Chicago, because she's an architect and she loves it. So what? Why does it have to fit into somebody else's box? It's only got to fit in your box. But we've been told that your box isn't necessarily something to trust because we know better. We're financial professionals. We're going to tell you differently. Yeah, maybe not. You may completely align with exactly what your advisors are saying. Because remember, depending on who you work with or who you're listening to about your money, they can have a vast array of different licenses. They may not be able to coach you on real estate because they don't have a real estate license. They might not be able to coach you on stocks because they don't have a stock license. They only can sell you mutual funds or annuities. This is why there's so much disconnect in the industry, because there's different professionals with different skill sets and different licenses, which has created all this confusion in the financial services industry, let alone with you as a person. And again, it's not good or bad. The industry has done the best job that it possibly can to help millions and millions of people in the mass market. And everything evolves and everything grows and everything gets better all the time. But your job is to stand in your truth. And if there's something that you know your heart is not aligned with, you have to change it, or you will continue to keep repeating that suffering cycle financially, and you will never get rid of those anxieties. Thanks for joining us. And if you want to join us for more, I have the link below, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody.